Welcome to a typical Estonian village. Mine was among several dozen private houses. I invested in this old farm. I get into my musketeer, a gift from my grandfather for my 18th birthday, to head straight to the farmyard and assess its condition with my own eyes. Behind the rusty metal gates lurked a veritable den and impenetrable thickets. Once upon a time, this was a bustling motor depot for the local collective farm, complete with machinery tools and promising prospects. Now, the last has left behind only a few tractors and trucks, a defunct production facility, and cryptic buildings, barely standing under their own weight. It's worth noting that some of the buildings and equipment were quite modern, suggesting an attempt to work and develop. The equipment, which had been standing for several years, has succumbed to vandalism and looting. It was missing some parts and fuel. Among them were a large empty, a crawler grader, a Kamaz truck, a refrigerated truck, and an old combine harvester without a header. The farm itself is 100,000 euros in debt, plus a loan of the same amount. Apparently, this is the result of poor management of seed and alcohol production, and there are no fields here at all. And trees, we brought chainsaws for this. This will be a very long and hard job. This isn't like harvesting pine trees. Thick oaks take a long time to cut, have tons of branches, and are catastrophically difficult to transport. To the point of sale, nasty. We'll be busy with the ripening of the smaller trees. Meanwhile, the guys will be cleaning and preparing each large tree for loading. There are about 20 of them here. The work is going well, but it was time to think about where or what to load the sod logs into. Among the equipment at the base was also a 3-axle 172221, which was littered with piles of dried concrete and bushes. It looks like first in line for resuscitation. Incidentally, it still has about 50 liters of fuel left in its tank. Sonia is already hammering away with a jackhammer to break up the pile of concrete. So we're saving their little thing. We're also extracting crushed stone and gradually clearing the base. The tractor started up and hopefully will be able to help us for the next couple of months, until we pay off the 100,000 debt, so we can fix it and fill it with gas. Late in the evening, we dealt with 2 large and loaded them to lend us a crane, and also to drain some diesel fuel from the hole. Into the Komatsu, we removed the sides, and now we'll try to fill this hole with slabs. The Komatsu somehow managed to squeeze through to the slabs that were lying near our fence. We deployed the crane and tried to load the slabs to get them closer to the hole. Great, the slabs are loaded. All that's left is to lay them on top of the hole. Honestly, I'm not so sure anymore. Wouldn't it be faster to just try to fill this hole? But this is how it is, so it will be. It was incredibly difficult. None of us knew how to operate a crane. But now we can easily use the driveway and deliver our first batch of trees. We were lucky there was a heating plant nearby. They would gladly accept our oak. 7,000 rubles is a substantial sum. And, most importantly, we now have hope of paying off our debts before they force us to leave this place. The first month was difficult, but revealing there's a lot of work here. But the second month we've gathered back at the base. As you can see, almost all the trees have been cut down. All that remains is to clean them, load them, and take them to market. Easier said, that will take another whole month. In the meantime, we managed to repair another piece of equipment. A track loader was needed to load the huge logs, which were too heavy for humans, without having to cut them into a bunch of small pieces. Now that we divided the remaining diesel fuel between all the working equipment, we hauled the trees away with an Ataz truck and a Kamaz truck. That's an extra 10,000 rubles. We sorted through the trees like ants, like a lump of sugar, and the profits from this business were so substantial that we'd already paid off a third of our debt, leaving 70,000 rubles left. As you can see, we've cleared out most of the base, Everyone was already very tired, and several times regretted taking on the task of restoring this farm. And since laziness is the engine of progress, we decided to simplify our work. We'd fell the trees directly onto the tractor and haul it whole for sale. This was the only option, since we didn't have the money for a winch, so we were earning less dumping the oak. Processing work on the station workers, but at least we had hope of finishing the yard clearing much sooner. After just 5 hours of operation, the hots died all, the diesel was gone. The guys are currently working exclusively on Kamez trucks. As for fuel, we found a brand new gas station on the base grounds, but it naturally was out of fuel. The only thing we managed to find was 20 liters of diesel in the garage. This is the last diesel we have. Hopefully we can repay our debts before it runs out. And after a couple more hours, our balance is finally positive, and the yard itself is cleared of trees. All that remains is to remove the old slabs, scattered gravel, and large grass. For this, we rented a special thimble, loaded it, and delivered it to our loader. Don't ask me why the thimble is different. In the end, we changed it several times. We didn't know which one was right. Now we'll use it to remove the top layer of debris and broken slabs, and we'll finally be able to start filling in that hole. At the entrance to the yard, we're pushing the slabs together and renting a mini loader to help our poor guy, as it can only level holes, not fill them. Luckily, we had enough debris and dirt to fill the hole. Our mini loader was having a hard time though. It was a bit of a struggle. We were a bit short. We had to take a Kamez truck to the local sand quarry. We spent our last couple of thousand there, but we were able to buy 10 cubic meters of sand. With its help, we leveled the hole and all the uneven areas in the yard. This was our first purchase, or rather rental. This is the first job we've completed 100%. Meanwhile, our loader cleared and leveled about 60% of the yard. We're using a second loader to help it out. Incidentally, we managed to scrape up several tons of concrete and crushed stone under the slabs. I think it'll come in handy. If we'd known, we wouldn't have bought the sand. Just look at this beauty. No moonshine trees. No cracked slabs, no annoying pits or excavations. Hidden among the thickets was a vodka distillery and a seed treatment plant. I'm not sure the previous owner was profitable, but we decided to try to earn our first spare cash from them. True, we'd need oats and beets, and those naturally required more money. As for equipment, we were able to get this many tractors and trucks back on their feet, or rather, back on wheels, the combine harvester and the NTZ. Unfortunately, we'll still need repairs and refueling. I forgot to mention that for unknown reasons. We couldn't use contracts in this survival situation. They simply weren't accepted. The only way to revive the equipment, that is to make money, was to sell some of the unwanted equipment. The loader went on OLX for $12,000. With this money, we bought a barrel of diesel fuel, a car wash, and all the necessary spare parts to try to restore our first tractor. So we have one more MTZ 322. With it in the Komatsu, we'll try to establish our first source of income. I'm hauling a few cubic meters of sand in a trailer. Remnants of a construction project. I sell them for literally $2,000. But that's enough to buy a full trailer. And then I'm back to hauling it from the quarry to the store. 2 kilometers away, there I sell the goods for $15,000 more. From there, the MTZ and KMAs work simultaneously, earning $15 each net. We worked for the rest of the month. Three people will probably ask me why I don't attach a tractor trailer to the Kamaz. Even without it, it can barely pull 10 tons of sand, especially in the sticky forest soil. Having earned over $20,000, we stopped at the local grain storage facility and bought a couple of tons of oats and beets. That took almost all of our money, which is surprising since we were supposedly buying them during the harvest season. Then it's back home. There we unload and launch our first production. I don't need huge profits. The main thing is that the costs at least pay off. In the meantime, we've done enough to go on vacation. With a clear conscience, by then, it's already the 3rd month. Wow, about 15,000 liters of vodka? Pune is renowned for its reliability and quality, and I'm sure it will be in high demand. Among the local population, we use our refrigerated truck to deliver the goods to the store. Despite the abundance of different stores in the village, it was most profitable for us to sell to just one place, so our route was the same throughout the year. The factory received 130, of which 100 was net. Over the remaining 9 months, the plant will be able to provide almost us $1 million. This is not enough to develop a modern farm, so we will have to find additional sources of income, and I plan to supply the plant itself from my own field. This cost from 300,000, our money is clearly not enough. So I decided to use it to open another source of income and try to earn money from the field until spring. In our village, chicken coops, a dairy, a sawmill, and a quarry were for sale. The latter was already known to us and was affordable. We were confident in its profitability. There was also a small forest in the vicinity that we could also cut down. I spent 85,000 now. This is our plot. With the remaining money, I'll buy a small but almost new loader. The plan was as simple as 3 digs. We have everything we need: sand, a loader, a truck, and a point of sale. Loading is difficult, the journey is long, and the product is cheap. But at least I was confident it would all pay off. The point of sale this time will be the train. I'll haul all the sand from the quarry here and reload the wagons. And when the train is full, we'll send the sand to where it'll fetch a higher price. The pile at the quarry wasn't that big. By loading just 2 wagons, we'd already removed about 1/10 of it. By evening, most of the sand had been removed from our quarry, but I've completely loaded the train, even loaded it into this grain wagon. Well, it's time to find out the price of my labor. Let's go sell it all. 120,000? We just bought a loader quarry. There's still about 80,000 worth of sand there. That'll be our entire profit. I was hoping for a little more. And even then, I'll have to work hard to sell those 80,000. I returned home last night. This month, I've had to work myself. I'm closing the yard and going to bed. The month is November 4th. My helpers have returned to work. Today we decided to start cutting down the trees. In our sandy area, we bought a loader grapple and did a lot of manual labor to prepare a lot of even uniform length logs. The sand yielded 40,000 rubles an hour. I also saw this pile. In an hour, we'll see how much the timber will bring us. But first, we had to invest in a stump remover so that stumps wouldn't get in the way. Yes, the timber will definitely require a lot more equipment, which means a tractor. The stumps are cut, we begin loading the logs. Luckily, most of them were liftable and manual. This is good, because loading them with loaders was a real challenge, especially for the newbies on my team. We even managed to load a Kamaz truck. The road to the sawmill is long. We're heading there. The result of 2 hours of work was only 14,000 rubles. It's awful how little we only the rent of the stump remover and the purchase of the grapple. It looks like we'll have to be more radical and bold in this matter, so we decided to sell the old slow logging truck. We washed it, fixed it, and sold it for 20 cases. In exchange, we rented a cool logging combine and a logging truck. This way we were going to harvest longer, more expensive logs and transport them faster and in greater quantities. But at some point our combine broke down. It really didn't want to cut anything. We're in the red by another 30,000 on rent. We've only just begun to develop. and take our first steps. We worked 2 hours in the forest, and we're still in the red. And just when we started to develop our own business, we take on an even bigger loan. 100,000, we're taking on another 100. I'm making one last attempt to turn our forest into a profit. We're building a sawmill on the cleared part of the forest. We're buying a winch. We're felling trees and hauling them to production. We're trying to make boards. I hope the sawmill will pay for itself in the remaining 8 months. This way, we'll not only produce a more expensive product, but also save the few spruce trees in our forest. Now we have 3 sources of income: the sawmill, the quarry, and the vodka distillery. For the latter, we still have to go out and buy raw materials, like oats and beets. We're spending our last money on this, which is equal to the loan we took out. Great, now, hopefully, by spring, we'll have enough money to buy a field and grow our own crop. But we still had to replant the felled trees. This video is about tidying up after all. So we won't leave behind a deforested wasteland of stumps. We're also developing the sawmill as a separate production facility, and although all we had to do was wait for spring, we weren't lazy and continued to earn as much as we could. For example, we still had about 40% sand left. By this point, we could afford to buy a conveyor belt. For some reason, I'd forgotten about it when I was driving it myself. The next morning, we were able to send half a full train out to sell. We took 85,000 and headed home to catch up on sleep. It's December, winter. It's time to rest and get some work done on our production. 4 months later, April has arrived. The month when our lives were supposed to change dramatically. We've brewed dozens of cubic meters of vodka. We're hauling it to sell in 2 Kamaz trucks. That's an extra 200,000. But now, we also have a supply of lumber. The sawmill did a great job. It yielded another 90,000. And the best part is, we still have half the wood left at the plant to work with. 300,000 is still not enough for our own field. We also decided to get rid of some unnecessary equipment first. We washed, repaired, and refueled the MT and came as the only 2 pieces of equipment. We'll keep a refrigerated truck, a trailer, a combine harvester, and a loader, which, after a major overhaul and cleaning, is being sent to the market. We have $500,000 in hand. It's time to take a risk and invest it in a new venture. 500 meters from the base was a field that once belonged to our farm, but it's too expensive for us. We'll leave it for later for now. I'm choosing the second one. Besides, beets are already growing there. One of the crops we need. All that remains is to separate half the field and plant it with sheep. That's what we'll do. We'll rent a seeding complex and a plow that will be capable of handling our 300 horsepower. The first thing we need to do is plow and bury the beet seeds deep. We'll also get rid of the weeds. Plowing took a lot of time and effort, but it will give a noticeable boost to the harvest. Immediately after that, we'll use Selka and fertilizer. I'd like to ask you to leave a thank you in the comments to Sonia, Nastia, and especially Roma, who helped me restore this farm between night shifts. I couldn't have done it without them, especially in just 1 year. Once the harvest is planted and production is ready to resume, I could kick myself and lie around until autumn. But I can't do that, as I already said. Contracts are unavailable to us. But I found other work for myself. The base, although cleared, needs improvement. I decided to plant orchards with trees. But why buy a separate plot? If I can free up half of our base, that's not in use. There was a large modern shed here, which we're moving to a part of the base where all the equipment will be stored. We're also moving the vodka distillery. Then I dragged a stump cutter from the forest to get rid of the oak stumps. They're still there, by the way. Getting rid of them was very difficult. They're huge. Next, I rent a tiller to dig up the topsoil, remove bushes and soften the hardened soil, compacted by wheels. I also remove old, cracked slabs and clear the stone paths. Here and there there's all sorts of debris pallets. Wheels, I also remove that by hand. The only things we're leaving are the bulk material area, the pallet shelter and the apron, as we might need them in the future. The tiller or mulcher, depending on your preference, worked great. Although our EMTSDDN had a tough time with it, all that's left is to wait. And within a month, everything was overgrown with beautiful young grass. Here's an example of what the overgrown brewing area looked like before and after. Excellent. Now, let's take care of the main part of the yard. Here we're laying new, clean slabs. They'll also be needed in places in the garden. We're fencing the grass off the curb slabs and planting for apricot orchards, each with 20 trees, the choice. By the way, it was between pears, apples, plums, and apricots. Meanwhile, Nastia has taken up the decorations. The yard has been greatly transformed, becoming more convenient, and with fewer useless buildings and equipment. This isn't the end yet. This cart will be our calling card, a tribute to the farmers who lived on this land a century ago. Another month has passed, the orchards have grown, and it's time to feed them. We hauled away some of the vodka and lumber to earn $100,000. All of this money will now go toward garden maintenance. 16 cubic meters of liquid fertilizer and 50 cubic meters of compost, plus the equipment to deliver it all home. We'll also need a water barrel. All this equipment has rolled into the yard. To power the orchard for one season, we'll install water-dispensed liquid fertilizer and dump the compost into a pile so it's easy to distribute with a forklift into individual tree wells. We'll repeat this with all 80 apricots. The green ones are already hanging. Soon they'll ripen and go to market. We'll rent equipment to remove windrows from our field, a sprayer that is... It was time to spray the speck with herbicide. Unfortunately, our Belarusian is too big for this. But we have to economize and work with what we have. And by the end of summer, the ace was ripe. It was time to harvest it. We loaded and hauled away a Kamaz truckload of vodka, and with the money we rented a low-deck truck. We have so much product that it's better to transport it this way. Dozens of pallets of vodka, still a decent amount of boards, and about 80 cubic meters of apricots. Arrow. Now, that's the moment of enjoyment. It's not a pile of trash leaving our yard, but a whole truckload of goods. I'll take a nap while the guys go to the store. I was expecting more, of course, but $500,000 is still a lot. This money's enough for us to buy a new, medium-sized combine with a header, as well as a transfer trailer. Now we're ready for the harvest. Let me remind you that we grow these 2 crops for vodka production, so we don't have to buy all the salt we need. And in the future, with new fields, we'll be able to grow other crops. Sunflowers, silage, corn, or potatoes. The harvest went smoothly. However, the obedient summer yielded a poor yield. We didn't even fill the bin. In a single pass around a large field, it took 3 people, a combine operator, a loader, and a Kamaz truck driver. Later, we went and bought a trailer for the Komatsu truck. Seeing that, the yield was actually higher than we expected, and it looks like we can even fill the trailer. 32 cubic meters, or about 20 tons of grain, will be enough for a year of plant operation. But we'll also have 2 harvest beets later. We could have done all of this without any problems. Moreover, we could have bought whatever equipment we needed, and we take good care of what we already have. The facility looks fantastic. The guys are happy with the equipment and working conditions. And if we worked for another month, we would have easily repaid the $200,000 loan. But according to the challenge rules, I can't film anymore because it's been exactly a year since we arrived at this farm. Here's what it looked like before and after.